Right, now the England women's team are in the final stages of preparation for the World Cup, but the issue of player bonuses are causing some unrest in the build-up, and our senior reporter Rob Dorset is here, I'm delighted to say, to chat through this. So what are they unhappy about, first of all?
Well, Vicky, I think it's a really important choice of words they've gone with here, from the sources that we've spoken to around this. Not unhappy, they say disappointed. Now that says to me the players are unhappy, but they're not going to let this disrupt their preparations for the World Cup, and the timing's terrible. They fly out to Australia in 2 days' time, less than 48 hours' time before they fly out to start the World Cup, and here we are talking about a row over bonuses. Negotiations with the FA have been going on for quite a while, but no agreement has been reached that suits the players. But I don't think you'll hear any more about it from here on in truth. What the players are specifically unhappy about, or disappointed about, I'm told, is that the FA won't be awarding them their own bonuses. All of the bonuses they get are going to be paid by FIFA, and I'll explain that a bit more to you in a moment. They wanted a similar agreement to what the USA and Australia have had. They've got this collective bargaining agreement, which does pay them more, guaranteed bonuses for on-field performance. No more talks planned, as I say, so it's all a bit untimely and a bit unseemly, really, on the eve of the World Cup.
Look, if somebody was listening to this conversation, they'd say, oh, hang on a minute, FIFA are giving them every player £24,000, you know, that's quite a vast amount. It's a drop in the ocean in comparison to what the men get. I mean, the women have kind of stood in their shadow for so long, it's about time that they kind of said, hang on a minute, this just isn't right.
The difficulty here is that the earning capacity of female players is still nowhere near what it is for the male players. So the male players, when they go on international duty, traditionally have given all of that money away to charity. But of course, the male players earn an awful lot more from their domestic club contracts, from endorsements and commercial and sponsors and all that sort of thing, which is beginning to happen for the female players, the elite female players, but certainly nowhere near to the same level. So this is big money for the female players. You can't compare it with the men. There still isn't a quality of pay. No. Even if they were being paid the same at international level, it's just not the same. What's changed here, though, is that FIFA have changed the rules. And in the past, they've always paid their prize money, FIFA, direct to the FA, the English FA or the Senegalese FA, and it's been down to that individual FA to decide how they distribute the money. And of course, the English FA have always wanted to cover their costs because there's a lot of costs here with hotels and flights and support staff and equipment, etc., etc. This, I understand, will be the first time that the English FA have lost money on a World Cup because they're being told they've got to pay more in bonuses by FIFA. And as you say, £24,000 if they reach the group stage. Every player who wins the final will earn a guaranteed £213,000. And that's been set by FIFA, so that if you come from Senegal, if you come from France, if you come from England, you'll all earn the same amount.
Parity, this makes sense.
Which makes sense. No comment from the FA at all, but my understanding is that they're saying, well, hang on a minute, female players, you've had a big pay increase here anyway. That £24,000, I know, and I can see your face. And
because I'm thinking, for years they've had to deal with nothing, you know. They've been on flights, and the men go first class, the women go,
so you're talking about huge increases from a very low base in terms of their earnings, and that's the point. So whilst the FA officials aren't here to explain to us, but they would say that £24,000 represents a 300% pay increase compared with what England's players would have earned in 2019 at the previous World Cup, 700%, 7 times the amount it was in 2015. But you're quite right, the players would have exactly the reaction you've had there, which is, OK, but come on, the game has changed massively in that time. In the last few years, the growth of popularity, of professionalism, of commercialism in the women's game means that we shouldn't be comparing with what.
And we're the European champions. You'd like to think the FA might just be, I don't know, well... you talk, otherwise I'll get myself
but look, the way you're speaking is the way that the England women's players have been speaking, and their representatives, and a lot of football fans, whether they're fans of the male game or the female game, would be saying exactly what you're saying now. The FA would say, commercially, we have to do what's right. They've had a big pay increase. We have to do this step by step. Parity with the men's pay is still nowhere near yet where it is. And it's about what we can afford to do, because we still have the same costs. In those costs have increased because FIFA have said we've got to pay more in bonuses. So I think it's a really interesting one. In terms of what happens next, no more talks, but, and this is an important but, what happens usually in these situations is that the FA's commercial partners tend to step in. And I think if England's women do really well in this tournament and they get to the latter stages, this with the fans and with the media will become a bigger story, even if it's not a bigger story for the players. And I think it's at that point you'd see some of the FA's commercial partners stepping in to say, OK, look, we're going to pay you some extra bonuses because you deserve it. That gets the FA off the hook to a large extent.
Yeah, I mean, I may be asking a question out of turn, but their commercial strategy, the FA, traditionally hasn't been great in terms of letting players have their own sponsorship deals and so on and so forth. So,
well, exactly. And the England female players have had to put their own commercial sponsorship deals and that sort of thing to one side for this tournament.
Yeah.
So, of course, the money they earn, which is less than the men in the first place, massively less than the men in the first place, they've had to put on hold to take part in this World Cup in the first place. And they're saying we need recompensing to the same level as the USA and other countries that have got this group bargaining situation.
It's interesting. Germany are the same as, aren't they? So there are some FAs that are sort of saying, actually, we're, FIFA are dealing with this. So they're not alone.
It's a huge issue, and I think this isn't the last we're going to hear from it. I think there will be no further talks. What's been made clear to me is that the England women's players are not going to let this disrupt their preparations for a tournament that they think they can win. And that's their priority. And they don't want to be seen having done so well and won the Euros. This is the next big tournament since. They don't want this, a row over pay, to disrupt them and damage the huge following they've now got within this country and elsewhere, because they've been such a credit in the way that they've held themselves and the way that they've performed on the pitch and off the pitch. But, and this is the big but that your face is speaking volumes about, and everybody else watching this, I'm sure, will be saying exactly the same. But this is an underlying issue. And as I say, the FA don't want to talk to us about it. I understand it's a sensitive one for them. And their hands are tied to a certain extent by FIFA and the amount of costs they've got to pay. But it doesn't change the fact that these female players who are playing at elite level and want to go and win this World Cup are not happy with what they're being paid, the commercial deals they've had to put to one side, and the level of recompense they're getting from FIFA / the FA as a result of this. And you have to have some sympathy with them.
You certainly do.